Hello, everyone, and welcome to Persistence Playbook. And on today's show, we have a very in-demand keynote speaker. He's an author, he's a high-performance coach, and he helps CEOs and entrepreneurs get clear on their short-term and long-term goals while building sustainable momentum towards them. And today, we're going to try and figure out how can we get crystal clear on the vision for our life and build the discipline necessary to bring that vision to fruition. Brett Eaton, thanks for being on the show, brother.
Thank you, Brett. I appreciate it. Two Bretts, two Bretts, two mics. Let's do this, man.
Oh man, I'm excited. You're the first Brett that I've ever had on the show besides myself. So this is an exciting moment. There's certainly no mistaking us though. I'm bald as an eagle and you've got this like amazing flowing Uncle Jesse like hair. So
Uncle Jesse like hair. That is the best compliment I think I've ever received in my life. I'm writing that one down.
And you know it's real too, because it's from a bald guy, right? And you don't even know that the check that we would write to have that hair. So anyway, we can move on. But so listen, I know you help a lot of very successful high-ranking people in companies, and also just entrepreneurs, business owners. You help them get clear on their goals. And for anyone out there listening that maybe isn't so crystal clear on what they want to accomplish in the next 12 months, 3 years, 5 years. What steps or tools can they use to get more clarity on those goals?
Yeah, I run through a process of defining what success means to you. And I think so many times we fall into the trap of not really being clear what we want when it comes to success. So we default to what we see around us, or we default to what other people are chasing. And what I've found with some of the high performers I've worked with is they're chasing and working so hard to get to the top of this mountain. And unfortunately, some of them have looked around and been like, is this really what I was looking for? Like this, yeah, I'm making more money. Maybe I have a more prestigious job role, but I have less time with my family and my health has gone to hell. And, I'm less fulfilled than I maybe ever have been. So it's really getting clear that, are we chasing something that we want? And when we get there, are we going to be happy? Are we going to be better? Is our life going to be better because of it? Not just because we feel like, growing doesn't necessarily mean we just have to go after all of these, big audacious goals. Well, sometimes it does, but we got to make sure that we're chasing things that we actually want to catch.
I love that. You're right. Like if you're chasing, sure, like you want to be the top ranking salesperson, in your office, but while chasing that goal, you let go of your health and you gain 30 pounds. Like, is that really success? Maybe in someone's eyes, it might be. I think in a lot of people's eyes, it might not be. For yourself, for you, when you're kind of strategizing your goals, do you categorize them? Like, what does that process look like for Brett Eaton?
Yeah, you touched on something major. When I was back in my first career, when I was in the fitness industry, I remember, like a big turning point for me was going to a job promotion or job interview for a promotion where I was going to be regional director of fitness for this gym. And I remember leaving the interview feeling like I crushed it. I got back in my car and I had this like sick feeling in my stomach of, I don't want that job. I did everything. I said all the right things. I did everything in power to put myself in a position to get it. And I just remember the joke amongst the fitness industry was it came with a pay raise and it came with 15 pounds. And we were in the fitness industry, and that job came with immediately that person who was all about fitness started to lose it and become unhealthy. And I just said, that's not what I want. It was a great turning point for me because I realized I was climbing a ladder that I did not want to be on. And a lot of things had to change. And that was kind of the beginning of the start of my own business. But for me, it comes down to everybody will talk about the main buckets of their life. And for most people, that's, family, that's career, that's health, maybe experiences, relationships, whatever it may be. But you have to identify what success means in all of those things. And, a lot of people talk about balance, and I'm not actually a big balance guy. I actually think life is this beautiful wave of imbalance. And at times it's going to be unbalanced in a pursuit of something or growth in some area. And that may take away from something on the other side. If somebody has neglected their health for a year and this is the year that they're going all in on their health, well, that's probably going to take more time and energy than it has in the past, which means that has to come from some bucket somewhere. So identifying kind of those most important buckets of people's lives, and then getting clear on, again, like what does that look like I like to kind of stay within like the 6 month range, right? 6 to 12 months. If like we say, hey, what do we want to do in 6 months? Well, we can reverse engineer that down and say, well, what do we want to do in 90 days? And then what do we need to do in 30? And then what do we need to do this week? And if we can make it to that bite-sized chunk, it usually is a lot easier for somebody to wake up and identify, okay, this is what I need to do to be successful today.
Love that. And I think that is true. I think, the idea of staying balanced throughout the year, throughout your life is not really too realistic. At some points you're going to have your nose down, you're going to be grinding in your business, and maybe your relationships aren't getting quite as much of attention as they might be otherwise. Then there might be other seasons of life where maybe you built out some systems and processes. Your business is kind of running a little bit without you having to be involved as much. And those are cases where maybe you can invest a little bit more in those relationships. And, the health thing, of course, is the other, kind of third pillar of life, at least as far as I'm concerned. You've got your health, you've got your finances, you've got your relationships.
Yeah.
And the health one certainly can get ignored from time to time too. For myself, at least, I know when I start ignoring that health bucket, everything else, kind of falls apart as well. So I will say like that is one bucket that I try not to ignore for too long of a time, because I know if I'm getting up every morning, I'm putting in my 60 to 90 minutes at the gym, I'm just a lot better in my business. I'm a lot better with my family. So that is one bucket that I try not to lay off of for too long.
Yeah.
And obviously I know fitness is not necessarily like the core, of your teaching anymore. I'm sure it's still something that you go over with clients though. And, I've certainly seen on your Instagram, you're still in incredible shape. What do you think prevents people from sticking with the gym, from sticking with that meal plan, before they get to their goals? Like what is that roadblock that stops people from attaining that health that they want?
Yeah, that's a great question, Brett. It's a couple things. For one, a lot of people, just the way that you just connected your health to being a better person for your family and also being better in your business, a lot of people isolate this fitness thing and they think that it's only for the one. If it's not for losing weight, or if it's not for building muscle, or if it's not for looking greater on the beach, well, that's okay. I don't really need to look that great on the beach. I'll forget about that. And they don't connect the dots between, if I'm better here, rising tide raises all boats, right? If I'm going to be great in this area, it's going to lead to better discipline, better resilience, better mental toughness in all of these other areas, better patience. It's going to lead to these other things. And the clients that connect those dots and say, I am so much better, or I work so much more productive, or I'm just a better person, happier when I do that fitness thing, it makes it so much easier to stay consistent. And also, I really try to battle people on like the all in, all out mentality. A lot of people will come to me and Brett, like, well, if I'm going to do this, I want to be all in. And while that can be great for certain times of life and certain phases, and there are plenty of, examples I could give where like, hey, that's a good thing. With consistency, it's the worst thing, because all in means that you're also telling me that, hey, if we stumble a little bit or we hit some challenges, you're probably going all out, right? There's not a lot of, there's not a gear shift to go back to like, oh, he'll just be at 70% for a while. And like when we're ready to go back to 100, we can. I really try to get people to not overcommit to what they think they're going to do on their best day and their best week and their best month. But what can we still stay consistent with, even when, the shit hits the fan, or the schedule goes nuts, or, a kid gets sick? What can we still commit to? What is like the baseline? And I've adopted this phrase of no zero day. And especially in fitness, on a perfect day, I'd love to get 8 hours of sleep, drink my water, get my workout, get my walk, meditate, eat 3 great meals. Like I'd love to do it all. But this mentality of no zero day is something I created when I was traveling a lot. And I may not go 5 for 5 or 6 for 6, but I never allow myself to get a zero. And that mentality completely shifted things for me. And I found it to be very helpful with clients. Is like, hey, you're right, Brett. I may not be able to have control of all those things around the holidays or when I'm traveling, but there's really no excuse to get a zero, right? There's always got to be something that's in our control. And if we can prevent the zero, it just makes it that much easier to never be all out.
Love that. No zero days. That's a really powerful mantra. I like that a lot. And you got to know what your baseline is. Like at the bare minimum, from a fitness perspective, I'm at least going to go for a mile walk, or I'm going to do 100 push-ups, or whatever it is, and just keep that momentum going. It reminds me of a quote by Brendan Burchard, which I love. And it's, not every day has to be a masterpiece, but at least get some paint on the canvas. And I love that
Love that.
quote, pertaining to fitness or, pertaining to work, whatever the important projects are in your life. If even on a Saturday or a Sunday, square off an hour to work on them. Right.
Yeah.
And I've heard you talk about this too, is that, your weekends are going to determine how you kind of evolve as a human being, probably even more so than your weekdays. And just curious if you could kind of talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, and a lot of people are like, "Well, Brett, what do I have to work out all day on my week? I have to work on the weekends." And no, but your weekends are a better taste test of how great your life is than than sometimes even the week. And what I mean by that is what you do on the weekend. If you're disciplined enough to get a workout in or to eat a couple good meals or drinks, that shows that you're even more disciplined when the schedule is not blocked off day to day to day to day. So I think for the weekends, it's a lot of people's opportunity to catch up.
Right.
And that could mean sleep. That could absolutely mean sleep. But I know when I was starting my business that I was one of those guys who was complaining Monday through Friday. And then the weekend would come around and I'd, go out with the guys and do whatever I needed to do, have some fun. And then wake up on Monday, didn't do anything over those 50 something hours and then go back to complaining.
Right.
And what a lot of people need to understand is like, that's precious time.
Sure.
And it doesn't mean that you need to use all 50 something hours to start your side hustle, start your business, get your finances in order, get your health back to normal, connect with your partner or whatever it may be. But use some of those hours. Like, don't let those go to waste because those are really a great opportunity for you to move the needle. And even blocking off, now on Sundays, I block off 90 minutes to just kind of get a Sunday setup going. I set up my week and, look through some of the work things that I have to do. And then the rest of my Sunday can be all fun. But that 90 minutes is like super valuable for me to set up the rest of my week. I really believe like that 90 minutes almost saves me hours throughout the week of just using the weekend time to help move the needle a little bit.
Yeah, I agree. I think, using an hour or two on Saturday to push that project forward, that passion project, using an hour or two on Sunday to plan out your week, just keeps that momentum going. So you don't wake up on Monday, you haven't done a damn thing productive in 48 hours and you almost forget how to work. You're like, I don't want to do anything right now because I've done nothing for 48 hours.
Totally.
Just by putting a little paint on the canvas Saturday, a little paint on the canvas Sunday, you're going to wake up so much more able to jump into those projects Monday, full speed ahead. And curious about what your kind of Sunday planning looks like. Are you a guy, and this kind of varies. I've talked to a lot of high performers, across all different types of businesses. And I know some people really like to time block out their entire week. And then some people like to kind of work more off of a list, how does your plan for the week work? Like what works best for you?
Yeah, there's really 8 steps and I'll save you from going through all the steps, but the ones that I believe are the most important is one of them is called landmines. And it's looking back, or I'm sorry, it's looking ahead at the things that could potentially blow up your week. And it's the things like, oh, I'm traveling. So there's, 3 hours on a plane, or, oh, there's a doctor's appointment in the morning. So like, okay, 9 a.m. is not going to be a normal 9 a.m. It's a kid's appointment. It's a rehearsal. It's a lunch meeting. It's a late night. It's anything that you have already scheduled that you just could use a little second reminder on. And the crazy thing about landmines are most of them were set by us and they will not do any damage if we're aware of where they are. Right. But if we are not aware of where they are, they can so easily blow up your day and blow up your week. So to me, that's always looking 14 days ahead. You look at this week and you look at next week and you're just like, okay, that's different. So I got to move my schedule around, or, hey, I'm going to be in the car during my lunch break. So let me pack a shake, or let me pack a bar. Let me make sure I have that. Let me make sure I confirm with XYZ people. So I'm not wasting, time. It's been a while since we scheduled that meeting or whatever. So landmines is a big one. The other one is watching the game film. This one's just called review, right? You look back at last week. And I think a lot of people, when they look about making changes in their life where they want to have a better week, they always think about adding. What can I add? What can I do more of this week? I actually think it's the opposite. What did I do wrong last week? What was one mistake? What was one poor choice? What was one poor decision that I made where if I could go back and do it again, or if I'm faced with that same challenge this coming week or the week after, I won't make the same mistake twice. To me, that is so valuable for people because I really believe that a lot of progress isn't just doing more and doing it better, but it's how do we not make the same mistakes over and over and over? So I always think of this like back to being an athlete, watching the game film of like, oh, I got beat on that play. I got beat on that backdoor pass, or I got beat, on whatever play it was. It's like, I know I'm not going to make that same mistake again. Let me watch it. Let me see what I did. Why did I do that? Okay, let's make sure in the next game I don't make that same mistake.
That's a great point. And I think I've been guilty of this in the past too. I'm sure a lot of people that sit down on a weekly basis and kind of map out their week ahead, they don't even think about looking in the rearview mirror. They're like, that week's gone, forget that week. We'll just chalk it up as an L, but this week's going to be different. But if you don't look back for a little bit and try and learn as to why maybe you didn't accomplish everything you wanted to last week, then the following week's probably going to be the same. It could be maybe you went out on Sunday night with the boys to watch the game. You didn't get home till 12:30, which means you slept in Monday. You didn't get your workout in, which kind of steamrolled into a so-so week. Totally. And maybe you say to yourself, okay, I'm not going to stay out till 12:30 on a Sunday night because it's going to affect my productivity and my momentum on Monday morning. Little things like that can really make a huge difference in an A+ killer week or a C+, got a couple things done, didn't really move the needle week.
And you nail it. As for a lot of people, like Monday and Tuesday are okay. And then Wednesday, and then we start to kind of hit this like slump where we go down. Well, I want to shine a microscope over what happens on Wednesday. What do we do Wednesday? What do we eat? What do we miss a workout? And that kind of bleeds into Thursday. Like you said, do we stay up and instead of watching one episode, we kind of revolt a little bit and watch 2 or 3? And that leads to it's like we can often identify what that thing is where we're like, that's the thing. Hey, if we just take that out or make a better decision on Wednesday night, Thursday and Friday are rock star now. So there's a lot of things that we can kind of do with that. And then the last you talked about making a list. I call it a to-do list, a TWO list, meaning this week only. And a lot of people get caught up making a to-do list that is, 47 things long. And then we get 7 of them done and it bleeds over to the next day, the next day, the next day. I kind of split my paper in half. And on the left side, I have a long-term to-do list, like things that I know are coming up or things that I want to get done, but are not necessarily for this week only or mandatory for this week. And on the to-do list, the TWO list, I put only the things that are mandatory for this week. And what that does is that gives me a realistic list of what I want to finish by Friday. Not this like, oh, I would love to do 100 things this week, which is never going to happen. But it starts to make you feel like a winner when you commit to less, but you follow through at a much higher clip. So I'd rather only have 7 things on there and knock out all 7 than have 46 and do 9. And you still like, did I do anything this week? Doesn't really feel like a very productive week. So I much rather my clients and stuff shrink their to-do list down and just look at the things that are mandatory for moving the needle this week.
Yeah, I like that. And the truth is, you put 46 on, you're not even getting 9. You're just overwhelmed. You wind up getting 2 or none. Yeah. You wind up doing none.
What do you start with? What's important? Where does the priority order go? So you have no idea where to go.
Yeah, I think that's important. I think, 7 or less, right, is like really is a good number for just like, what are the real things this week? They're going to move the ball forward on my most important projects. And, then of course there's going to be some urgent stuff that pops up here and there, but know what your top 7 are for the week and and make sure you're squaring off time for them every day. And every business has fires you got to put out every day. Those are going to happen. Those aren't going to stop. But know what your top 5, know what your top 7 are, and just do your best to bang those out while putting out the fires on the side that every business owner knows that they have to put out. Do you have like a set routine in your day, or is it kind of a little bit different every day? Do you try and cut work off at a certain hour and disconnect? Like, what's your average day look like?
That is a great question. I would say it's inconsistently consistent. Let's break down that. I do have some kind of staples in my week that are a little bit consistent. So like Monday through Wednesday, my day usually starts with a workout. I wake up, I try to get out the door to the gym in the first 30 minutes or so. I have a morning drink that I drink. It's just kind of like got some athletic greens and some apple cider vinegar, lemon, turmeric, a couple things like that.
Nice.
Nice. I like to get that in early. And then, ideally I'm working by, 8:39. I have some client calls that I'll take. But really I try to time block everything that I can. Not time block as in every single 15 minutes is planned out, but if I'm having client calls, I try to put all of my clients on 2 days. And what that does is when I start that day, I know I'm in a client call energy. So all my energy is going into the clients. I'm focused on them. I'm not really worried about so much admin work. And something I've started to do over the last probably 2 years or so is on Friday, I do a 4-hour focus Friday. And on Friday, I still have the plan of going to the gym, but instead of waking up and go to the gym, I'll wake up, I'll like get that drink, crawl in here, put some blue blocker glasses on. And for 4 hours, I try not to pick up my phone. I don't even check email. I try to just finish everything that is important to Brett on my Sunday setup for that week. And what I've found, Brett, is like oftentimes 4 hours, I get more done during that 4 hours than sometimes I do in like a full day. And what's great about that is, if I start work at between 6 and 7, it's like by 11 o'clock, I can go to the gym, then come home, have lunch. And like sometimes my afternoon is free if I've been really productive that week. Other times I can put another hour or two in, but it still gives me like 3 o'clock on to enjoy my Friday, do something with my wife, enjoy a walk or whatever it may be. So that has been really helpful as well. You talked about that Sunday process. I really believe that high performers win the 3 days every week that most people lose. And those days are Sunday, setting up your week just a little bit. Monday, if you can just find a reason to be happy and more excited about your Monday and come out of the gate strong, anything you do Monday will be easier to do on Tuesday and Wednesday. So start Monday strong. And then Friday. And, it's kind of cliche to like finish strong Friday, but like, yeah, if instead of coasting to the finish line and doing the bare minimum on Fridays, like most people do, if you win Friday, not only will you enjoy your weekend more, but Friday could be another day that you gain an advantage over almost everybody. So those 3 days, I really feel like win those 3 days and you will see your performance go through the roof.
That's right. That's really good stuff. And I like a couple of things you said there, kind of about theming your days, right? If you can group your client calls together on a couple of days, do that, because you're going to be able to fall into that client call energy as opposed to having to jump in and out of it throughout the week. And then you could theme your other days too. You could do an admin day, you could do a content day, whatever pillars your business calls for. And then I like that idea of 4 hours of just kind of deep work, right? The phone's off and you're really just dialed in on those projects that don't necessarily need communication with the outside world. You said you've got the blue light blocker glasses on. Let's touch on those for a second. Do you actually feel a difference? Do your eyes feel less tired after using those? Do you have them right there beside you?
So I have these that I'll pop on for you. Now these are more like I could wear these on a call and not look ridiculous. Mm-hmm. I also have, and these are Swanwicks. I am not sponsored by them, but I seem to really like them. There's another pair that I have by my bed that you put on, and I pretty much look like Bono from U2. Like they're orange, and they're like they are blocking every little bit of blue light. This blocks probably like 50%.
Okay,
but I actually have found, I actually have a little bit of trouble sleeping sometimes just because there's so many things going through my head. And, I'm not the kind of person that's like, oh, I'll just knock out. It's like, no, I want to solve all the world's problems as soon as I lay my head down.
Today we're solving
Today we have to solve them. So I do have those, and I put those on before bed. And I've actually found, like just, as silly as they look, wearing them around the house or watching TV or looking at my phone, whatever the things I'm going to do, wearing those for about an hour before bed actually does help me, kind of nod off a little bit. So those things do work, I think.
Yeah, I think so, for sure. 100%. And I've seen the orange ones you're talking about. Famous health influencer Dave Asprey is always wearing them. And he wears them everywhere. He wears them everywhere. He wears them on like Oprah. Like he doesn't give a damn. Like he looks crazy, but I guess he probably sleeps like a baby every night.
He probably does. Like zero blue light all day. Can you imagine?
None. Yeah. Zero. You can zonk out at 2 p.m. while you're walking down the street. But really, I think you really touched on a lot of things there. And I love that the deep work is part of your process. And I think that's something that almost, I'd say, 75% of entrepreneurs or anyone does not do, right? We're always so connected. We're always in Slack. We're always in our Instagram DMs. We're checking our email every 15 minutes. But I think just to kind of put all that aside for 2 to 4 hours a week, and maybe even more if it can work your way into your schedule, can be so beneficial to really move the ball forward on those projects that don't need client interaction, don't need communication. And this has been something that's been new to your process, you said.
Yeah, the Friday part has been something I've done for about 2 years. And I don't know, for some reason I love waking up on Friday knowing like, hey, let's get the work stuff out and then really enjoy like the rest of the day. And when I was living in San Diego, like Friday afternoons were surfing. So like I would do anything to get the work done so that I didn't have to cancel on the boys to go surfing. But I also, it's funny, as a coach, everybody thinks like, oh, he must be so rigid and he must be so routine. I've embraced this mentality of it's not ridiculous if it works. And I really encourage my clients and anybody out there to stop worrying about what it looks like the orange glasses. Like, stop worrying about what it looks like. I have a timer here, for, some sort of like, I time myself like 30 minutes. Don't look at anything. Just focus on this document or just write this newsletter or whatever it is. There's noise canceling headphones sitting right next to me. Like, there are just things, whatever gets you into the flow or whatever gets you into this space. So many people are comparing like, well, I worked this many hours, or I was so busy, or I was so busy is the most overused word in the English dictionary. I actually don't let clients use that word. They have to choose a different word. If they were like, well, I was busy, I'm like, no, choose something else. And what I found is by choosing a different adjective, they may say I was distracted yesterday. And that we can actually work around. We can figure like a plan to get better at that. But busy is kind of like this badge of acceptance, and everybody just says it. And it's like, oh, you're busy. Well, can't really tell you about anything because I guess we're all busy, and that's totally allowed. But by choosing a different word, and I've even found it with myself sometimes, like, oh, I was kind of busy. No. What was I? I was actually productive today. Like, maybe it's not a negative. Maybe I was actually really productive today. Or maybe today was a full day, which, Brett, a full day is a great day, right? So choosing a different word than busy will start to shine a light on how you're actually using your time, and get busy out of there, because busy is kind of useless, where another adjective you can build on.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, or get more specific with actually what were you doing? Because busy, right? It's people just say it and they wear it as a badge of honor, and then the other person goes, "Oh, busy is good," and you go, "That's right," and then you both walk off, and you're like, "What the hell was that? What language are we even speaking anymore?" It's like that Seinfeld episode where they go, "Yada yada yada," right?
Yada, yes.
Tell me what you were actually doing. You were scrolling Instagram. You weren't busy, or you were taking on projects that you shouldn't have been taking on because you're not excited about them.
Absolutely.
I think at the end of the day, we have a lot more choice over what we do with our hours than we give ourselves credit for. And I love that. Get rid of that word busy.
Get it out.
Get it out of your vernacular. It's not helping you. That's fire right there. I love that. Get rid of the busy word. Screw that word. So anyway, I want to touch on a little bit about like, obviously you're a super driven guy, right? Like, you've got a lot going on. You're a very in-demand keynote speaker. Do you ever talk to clients that have these big visions for their life? They really want to do great things, but they kind of struggle to find that daily motivation. And if you do find people like that, how do you coach them up on just kind of like tapping into that intrinsic motivation and just keeping the motor going on a daily basis?
Yeah, great question. A lot of people will see somebody around them, or they'll, see somebody that they follow or listen to or respect, and they're like, man, that person has such amazing drive. Like, they're so driven. And what
drive? Like,
how
do we get it?
Yeah, well, the first part is understanding that you can't have drive if you don't know where you're going, right? You are driving in a certain direction. Those people that have drive, they're driven because they can't wait to get to their destination. And if we don't know where our destination is, it's going to be really difficult to feel driven. So first, we have to figure that out. I had a client named Ryan, who is an amazing client. I've worked with him for a couple of years, and Ryan is the highest of high performer, right? Is a parent, is a great husband, has a great job, CFO of his company, like does all these things. But we were having a conversation once, and he was struggling, like I find a lot of people do, with figuring out where they want to be in their next 2 to 5 years. And that is a question a lot of people like, I kind of know where I want to go, but it's hard for me to get clear where I want to be in 2 to 5 years. So I said, Ryan, let's do this. Tell me where you don't want to be in 2 to 5 years. And that list came really easy to him. He goes, well, I don't want to be working so much that I can't coach T-ball and my kids' soccer. Well, I don't want to not be home for dinner. Well, I don't want to be any less fit than I am right now. Well, I don't want to, stop running the races that I'm running. And all of a sudden, we had this like line down the middle. I'm like, oh, okay, we're a little bit foggy on exactly where we want to be, but we are really clear on where we don't want to be.
Right.
So why that's so helpful for somebody is like, just do the things that are going to prevent you from ending up there. And what you'll start to do is you'll start to drift on that line, and you'll start getting a lot more clear about what that picture looks like, where you want to be in 2 to 5 years. So that is really it. It is just difficult to be excited to wake up every day and to be excited to do the little things that, like it's the workouts. It's like not every workout you're going to look in the mirror and feel awesome, right? Not every day, not every newsletter I send out am I going to get any replies on. Is everybody going to be like, Brett, that was the best newsletter ever? No, like a lot of them are just crickets and silent. But but you know that it's building something. And if you know what you're working towards, laying the bricks doesn't feel like such hard work. It feels like it's momentum building. So that would really be it, is just figure out what excites you and what gets you pumped up. And for everybody who's maybe working a job that they don't love right now, you don't have to quit your job tomorrow, but maybe you start volunteering somewhere, try some things out. Maybe there is another opportunity for you to do something with your life that you can get paid for and really enjoy. Or maybe it's just a side hustle, but I really think you got to find that excitement in your life. And too many people are waiting for the universe to bring them that thing, as opposed to going out, exploring, trying thing after thing after thing. Experiment with everything until you find the things that are exciting for you.
I love that. That's a really good kind of frame, I think, to look at it for, because so many of us are, right, people just sitting there and they're looking at TikTok or Instagram and they're hoping something just hits them like a lightning bolt, like, oh my God, that is what I must do with my life. When really that's not how it works in 99% of cases. You've got to just kind of, I like how you said, know what you don't want, know
Yeah.
where you don't want your life to be 5 years from now. That'll at least give you some type of general direction that you could just kind of take some messy action towards and just
Yes.
start doing some things. And eventually something's going to feel right. And then you're going to know what your path is. So I think that's a pretty powerful framework to look at that from.
Yeah, it's been helpful for a lot of people, because that, for some reason, that list comes easier, right? It's easier to say where we don't want to be or what we don't want our life to look like. And I had a speaking event yesterday, and I was talking to a younger group of women who were working at this salon, and some of them, it was like, yeah, where do we want to be? Like, what do we want our life to look like? What do we want our time to look like? What do we want our weekends to look like? Figuring that out will start to connect some dots to you and start to uncover answers. But yeah, we got to figure out what we want, and to get that drive. It's really difficult to be driven and not know where you're going, because at that point you're just kind of chaotically, throwing darts at the wall, but not really sure where we're aiming.
Right. Where are we driving?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah,
we're in the car. Where are we going? I love that.
totally.
And I think it can be a powerful practice too, to whether it's every morning or every evening, is just kind of review where, remind yourself of where you're going, your 5-year plan, what you want your health to look like, what you want your impact to look like, what you want your relationships to look like. And those things will change over time. But I think just kind of checking into them on a daily basis can be a powerful process to keep you going, to keep that foot going, right, one in front of the other, especially on the days where you don't feel like doing a damn thing but watching Netflix. Tapping into that why, tapping into that long-term vision can be really empowering. I wanted to talk a little bit about, you just mentioned a speaking gig you had the other day. So, there's a lot of people that I know listen to this show that are entrepreneurs or maybe aspiring entrepreneurs, but they're also aspiring speakers. And I'm just curious kind of what your career or what your journey as a speaker has looked like from A to Z, your early gigs to some of the big stages that you're on now. What does that look like?
Yeah, that's been quite a journey. It's been the last 7 or 8 years. And when I started my own business, I knew that I didn't even really know like speaking was a thing. And I remember, and it's funny you brought up Brendan Burchard, actually, because he was one of the first speakers that I saw live at a conference, and he blew my mind. And I said, I think I could do that. And here I am, like some kid sitting in the stands and like seeing one of the best speakers of all time. And I'm like, I think I can do that. But like, that also shows like some of the naiveness of just, hey, like I love the guy's energy. I think I relate to him. He had everybody like on an emotional roller coaster. He told great stories. I was like, I can't do that now, but I'd like to start doing that. So I actually, a lot of people will come up and ask that same question of like, how did you get started with the speaking, or where do I speak? And I ask them, where are you speaking now? And everybody's waiting for like the 500 person stage to start speaking. It's not going to happen that way. I was speaking to 6 people sitting on the ground in a circle, giving nutritional tips when I was working at the gym. And then I was talking to moms groups who are all pushing a stroller after the workout, and like 9 of them would sit around and we talk about motivation. And then I was talking to high schools, and actually the time when I really thought like, hey, there's something here, was I was doing strength and conditioning for a local high school due to a client who connected me to his son's team. And, there were 70 kids of all different sports out on this field, and I was running strength and conditioning with them. And after every after every session, I'd sit them down and I'd give them, the 90-second motivational message for the week to get them pumped up and to keep them going and driving. And one of the dads started filming it and putting it on like the high school Facebook page.
Cool.
And the principal reached out and was like, "You're awesome at this. These kids are like captivated by what you're saying. And I love that your message changes, but it also is kind of the same." And she brought me in to talk to the entire school at their pep rally one time. And that was the first, like, I went from like 9 people, 10 people, 70 athletes, but it wasn't really like speaking, it was training. And then all of a sudden a school full of 5,000 kids.
Right.
And I was like, oh, that happened quick. And I look back on that and I'm like screaming my head off. I have no idea like any sort of how to, vernacular for speaking in public, but it was just reps. It was reps after reps after reps. And I spoke probably 50 to 100 times making $0 just because I knew it was going to lead to the next one. And it sounds cliche, but I've always treated, if there were 8 people, I acted like there were 80. If there were 80, I acted like there were 800. And I just said, I know this isn't the stage yet, but maybe this is the step before the step. Somebody here is going to hear me and connect me to the next one, or somebody is going to hear me for the first time and be like, we got to bring this guy to this bigger stage. So I've always just kind of treated it that way. And the stages have grown and the compensation has grown. And so it's just, it comes with a confidence now. And now, I step on stage and I'm talking about something I'm so passionate about that I could, the lights could go off and my slides could shut down and we could be standing in the dark and I would still have just as much energy and passion for what I'm doing because I feel like I know it so well.
I love that. That's a great story. And I think it's something that could be valuable for a lot of aspiring speakers that are hoping that TEDx calls them and asks them to speak tomorrow, because it's probably not going to happen. Start with the small groups. Find anyone that you can that might benefit from your message today. And those groups will start, slowly but surely start to grow. And you just got to put the reps in, man. You really do. Yeah. And I'm just curious, how has your message that you've delivered to these groups kind of evolved? Are you speaking about a lot different topic than you were those years ago when you started?
Yeah, because of where I came from, it was fitness heavy. And then it started to evolve into like, well, let's look at I call the other 23 hours of your life, right? We got the fitness thing down. Now let's look at the other 23 hours. And I started to kind of touch on, well, everything we're doing in the gym, like any sort of goal you have there can be rinse and repeated in any other area of your life. And, then things like the Sunday setup started and all these different strategies and techniques. And I started testing them on everybody and it just evolved. So now, a lot of what I speak on is, the two concepts really. One of them is about playing offense in your life and taking back control and kind of getting off of this autopilot of defaulting to whatever life brings you and going to get what you want, right? Go take the control back and make the decisions necessary to change your life. And the other concept kind of correlates to a book that I'm writing that's coming out at the end of the year called Uncomfortable Either Way. And it's this concept of change is going to be uncomfortable, but it's also really uncomfortable to sit back and watch your life pass you by and just continue to see regret after regret. So it's kind of how choosing easy is making your life hard.
I love that. Uncomfortable Either Way. That's a great title for a book, man. That is
Thank
awesome,
you, man. I appreciate that.
I can't wait to read that one. I'm sure everyone listening will pick up a copy too. How has that, been working for you? Like, what's the process like writing a book with someone like yourself who's got a million other things going on at the same time? Or like, how do you find the time to write?
Writing a book is kicking my ass, Brett. I now will walk into a library and have so much more respect for everybody that's written a book. I'm not a bad writer, actually. When I sit down and I like to do it, but I've just always gravitated towards, I'm going to hustle this and I'm going to grind it out and I'm going to just work really hard and I'm going to move fast. And like writing a book, there's no moving fast. There's just consistently showing up to write and to edit and to change and reading line by line. And there's really no way to like speed it up. So I'm working with a great team though, and they're helping me with the editing and all that. And but it's taken just a lot of time. It's actually taken, I knew it would take a lot of time and it's taken more. It just has taken a lot of like sitting there. And that's where like a lot of my early mornings on Fridays and stuff, sometimes it's just sitting there and like 4 hours a book, sometimes It's just working through this book and writing it. And I had, when I kind of really dove in, it was like, this book needs to come out in, this year or early next year. And I hired the team to help me. I had like 100 pages worth of like crazy chapters and ideas and outlines and everything in a Google Drive somewhere, but it was never going to come to life unless I put the accountability in place of like, hey, I need deadlines. I need somebody on me. I need like a coach to work with, like all of this. And it's been an amazing process. Like on the other side of this, I'm going to be so proud of the time and energy that it took. And it's really kind of like your life's work in a way of, it's a culmination of not really just 8 years, but almost like a lifetime of putting myself out there, of experiences, some that went great, some that went terrible. And it's really just kind of taking the reader through a little bit of my own story, as well as some of the clients that I've worked with, and using them as examples of showing people where, hey, you might be right here where they were, and this is what they did to change their life. So it's going to be awesome. I'm really, really excited and proud of it. But man, right, anybody who's written a book, I am so thoroughly impressed by you.
And I think I've heard that too from other people who have written books or who are writing books. And it is just an unbelievably, challenging voyage for just about anybody. Because there's really, there's no, steps to skip. You just got to get in there, grind it out, block off the 4 hours and write. And just one more question about the book before we move on. Would you say you spend a lot of time with research, or is it mostly just writing from your own past experiences and your own viewpoints on things?
It's a little bit of both. I wanted this book to be, I didn't want it to just be filled with a bunch of Brett opinions, and trust me, there are plenty of Brett opinions in this book. I don't really hold many punches in this book. It's a lot of tough love, but it also, I wanted to be able to pull some data and some statistics on some of the things, and showing, when somebody is on a journey, I wanted to give them like numbers of a couple things. So a lot of it was, you take your whole life's worth of ideas, and especially, because of the industry that I'm in right now, and I'm still coaching and I'm still have clients, like there's always new ideas popping up, and you're obviously always hearing other things. And I've really had to kind of put blinders on. And I've actually haven't even read a single book in like 5 months, or haven't even touched a book, because I'm like, I can't take anything in new. Like I just need to get my ideas out. But it's a little bit of both. It's a lot of kind of personal story and unpacking it, and then saying, okay, this story is personal to me, but how do I share it where the reader feels like it becomes personal to them? So that's been it's almost like, in a weird way, like an actor would like embrace this new role and this new version of them. And like Brett, the author, is like stepping in and evolving. And it's only made me a better speaker. It's only made me a better writer. And I think it's really helped me craft ideas differently, knowing that like, hey, this isn't just a newsletter that will, I'm sending out another one next week. Like this book's going to live for a very long time, and hopefully, get in the hands of a lot of people. So let's make it the best that we possibly can.
Yeah, I love that. And I heard, I forget what I was reading, but they were talking about like just the ROI that you get from different sources of information, and how like a book is still probably the best ROI that you can get for your time, as far as like condensed knowledge and time spent on the work. I mean, when you're reading a book, usually the person who wrote it, poured their heart and soul into it over the course of years. Whereas, sure, like you'll read an article, maybe they took about a month to write it. You'll listen to, a podcast, which took a couple hours. And don't get me wrong, there's a lot of value here, but I think as far as like purely like just condensed knowledge and someone that really poured their heart and soul into something, a book to me is still the best ROI as far as learning goes, at least in my opinion.
I think you're spot on with that. Because like you said, you don't write a book in a month, right? It takes time to write a book, and you think about how many ideas thought leaders have, and to be able to funnel down and to just put like the strongest or maybe most valuable ones into a book has been definitely an enjoyable process of figuring out how to do it. And also, I wanted to write a book that I would want to read. And, I'm the king of reading, 80% of a book and being like, I got the gist, right? But I wanted to write a book where like there are no chapters that are fluff. There are no, hey, this is just kind of abridged. Like I wanted every chapter to be its own powerful punch of like, well, if I just opened up, chapter 13 and that's all I read, I would still be like, whoa, that's pretty good. I can do something with that. So it's very similar to my coaching. I like to build momentum with people, as opposed to giving them all the motivation and then like hope they do it tomorrow. Is a lot of the speaking that I do. It's like, I want to build a momentum with the people in the room. Let's write some things down. Let's take the action. Let's answer the hard question together, so that by the time you leave, you already have the momentum. the book does a lot of that as well, which I'm excited about.
That's awesome, brother. Well, I'm excited to read it now. You just got me
Thank you.
fired up. Put me on the wait list, man.
Thank you, man.
I'm ready. I'm ready to go. I'm comfortable either way. Coming to an Amazon store near you, man.
I love it. I appreciate that.
I'm psyched, and we got just a few more minutes here, and there's just a couple of things that I kind of want to touch on, and I wanted to talk like just discipline for a little bit. I think it's something that people struggle with. We struggle with making the promises and then keeping the promises to ourselves on a regular basis. We get up and we say, okay, I'm gonna shoot a video for my Instagram page, and I'm gonna work on that blog post for an hour, and I'm gonna do this, whatever it is. And then maybe we wind up doing some or none of that. And we wind up, leaving early and hitting golf balls at the driving range at 3 p.m. when we know we should be working on something that's really important to us. And, just how do you coach clients up, and what's your advice to people that just kind of generally struggle with discipline for whatever reason?
Yeah, not to like keep shoving the book down people's throats, but there's a chapter that I wrote about that called renegotiating contracts. And it's this idea of like, oh, I'll definitely do that tomorrow. And then tomorrow comes around and we immediately want to take our signature off and be like, let me change that. I'll do that Monday, or I'll do that the next. And I when it comes to discipline, a lot of people rely on willpower too much. They rely on willpower too much of like, well, I don't really want to do that thing, but I'll just make myself do it. And that's not really what it's about. It's leveraging discipline, and a lot of discipline is removing temptation and removing friction. And so, for instance, somebody wants to wake up and start going for a run. Well, if you have to dig through your closet for running shoes and your workout, and you have no idea where your water bottle is and all that, like those are all just friction to get you to do that thing. The other way of like is have somebody show up at your door that already is running. Right. And they're knock on your door at like 7:30 a.m. And it's like, well, now you have no choice. That person's standing there waiting for you to go run. Like that's another way of kind of leveraging the friction of like, well, you're not going to say no to that person's face. There's a lot of friction there. So friction can be good or it can be bad depending on what we want to do and how we want to do it. So I think with discipline, it's stop making life harder on yourself and really set yourself up for situations that are going to make you better. And I think people look at highly disciplined people or highly fit people or people who, look great, have great business. It's not that they are just have so much more willpower than you. They tempt themselves less. If my goal is to, write the newsletter or write the book and not be on my phone, it's like, don't have the phone sitting here buzzing in front of me. Like it's those simple things, and it's simple, but not easy. I don't want to act like discipline is simple because it's not, but I really believe that discipline is hard and will suck sometimes. But if you do not have discipline in your life, everything in your life will become infinitely harder. And that's just, it's a compounding interest of the more disciplined you are, the easier your life gets. The less disciplined you are, the harder and harder it becomes to do just the simple things.
Love that. I think that there's so much truth to what you just said there. And, if you're trying to lose 10 pounds, stop buying the Oreo cookies. If they're in your fridge, you're going to eat them. At least I know I'm going to eat them. I'm going to eat the whole box in like 24 hours because Oreos are unbelievable. But and if you're right, if you're trying to work on that newsletter, put your phone in a different room, because Instagram or TikTok is going to be calling your name every 15 seconds, and it's not going to allow you to put great work into that newsletter. I love that. Make it a little easier on yourself. I think we look at these beacons of success, and we think they must just have something that I don't have, right? Yeah. They must just have this willpower gene that I just didn't get, when the truth is they're probably just creating less friction for themselves. They're creating less temptation for themselves, I should say, on a daily basis. And that is what is, allowing them to reach the levels of success that they are, man. But Brett Eaton, dude, you absolutely brought the fire today. And I really appreciate you being with us, and awesome talk, dude.
I appreciate it, man. I love what you're doing. I love the episodes you put out. You touch on such great topics for people and exactly what they need for the playbook to just be successful and move their life forward. So I appreciate you having me, man. We could have done this all day. I could tell you're the kind of guy I'd like to be friends with. So, man, this is way more than just a podcast. I really appreciate this conversation. This was awesome.
I know, right? We could call it like, Brett and Brett in the morning or something.
That's like right.
That,
that's right. Man.
We could talk a little fitness, a little success. We could throw some sports in there, but we'd have a good time.
I'm I'm in, man. You tell me when and
I
where.
could see the cartoons, like me, the big bald cartoon, and then you with the Uncle Jesse hair. I think that would sell.
I think that's gonna win. That's a winner.
So listen, where can people keep up with all you got going on now, socials and whatnot?
Yeah, absolutely. It's pretty much Brett Eaton everywhere. Instagram is Brett Eaton _. LinkedIn is Brett Eaton. Website currently is motivatedbybrett.com. However, we finally are going to move that to bretteaton.com. So
nice.
Everything should pretty much be Brett Eaton. But I'm posting stuff pretty regularly on Instagram. I have a newsletter through my website that I send out weekly, and it's always going to take less than 5 minutes to read. It's I give you a quote at the top from the newsletter. So if that's all you want, and I give you the ROI right up front of saying the ROI of this newsletter I tell them exactly what it's going to be. So if you want to read it, great. If not, wait till next week. But yeah, that's where people can connect with me. And I always love connecting with people and, answering their questions and hearing what they have going on.
Love it. Just curious on the website, was bretteaton.com taken? You had to purchase it off the guy who had it? I need to know. You want
to know how backwards I did things early on in my life? The Instagram Brett Eaton was taken. So I was like, well, I can't do the website if the Instagram wasn't taken. Man, what a mistake that was back in the day. But no, the website's probably been sitting there. But I scooped that up, and then I just went with Brett Eaton _ because, that's what we're going to do. And like, hey, no harm, no foul.
I love it. Currently, BrettMcDermott.com is taken. This guy's been holding it. He's been holding it for years, and he doesn't even do it. He doesn't even do anything with it. It redirects to his LinkedIn profile. It drives me nuts, but it's okay. But we actually just registered BrettMcDermott.xyz. We're just going to go with that for now.
Nice.
And then I'll just hopefully keep chipping away at this guy, and one day
he'll crack.
He'll crack, right?
He'll crack.
He'll crack. Hey, guys, thank you for being with us today. This has been Persistence Playbook. Get out there, persist, kill it, and we'll see you next week.